For the month of January 2021, we are offering a chance to win a unique WildEarth expedition to the magnificent Tswalu Kalahari. From the ancient Tortoise Mountains to the southern Kalahari's red sand dunes, Tswalu offers what travelers crave most: space and time. The winner will explore this landscape in a vehicle, on foot, or on horseback, with a chance to go behind the scenes with WildEarth and of course meet the meerkats. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend at the luxury Multi Lodge, including flights from either Johannesburg or Cape Town. Open to all WildEarth explorers who have signed up before the end of January 2021. Terms and conditions apply.
My name is Ross and I'm a field guide at andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on WildEarth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on WildEarth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
Oh, it's going to be in trouble now. Oh, this is unbelievable stuff. Here comes a hippo in too. Go, Impala. There's a hippo coming in. I can't believe what we're seeing here. This is what we normally see in East Africa. It's all over. Hippo leaping at the crocodile now. Everything's gone underwater.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve, where this morning we've come across some very cute scenes. There's a minute little giraffe who for the past 10 minutes has got an itch that it just can't get rid of. It's busy scratching its neck on the branch and has been for a good while now in its ear, and it's just the perfect height for it. It is a minute little giraffe at that as well. And yeah, we've come out to the open areas this morning to see if we couldn't perhaps have some more luck with those cheetah. But instead we found this journey of giraffe, which could very well help us in a search for them. But how incredibly cute is that little giraffe? Bit of a readjustment lower down on the neck. And welcome to your morning safari, live from the African bush. Have a look at this little cute giraffe. Have a look at those ossicles, those very, very fluffy ossicles. It has just managed to push over a piece of that branch and snap it. And now its scratching post is a little bit lower, so getting rid of the itch elsewhere. But I think it's now content that that itch is gone. But a minute little giraffe, I'd say if a couple of months old. It's got a very crisp, clean coat. A couple of others in picture as well. And yeah, good morning everybody. My name is Matt, and behind the camera we've got Owen. And this morning we've set out to these open areas. As we got to the giraffe, had a very brief glimpse of a black rhino crossing the area that we have driven to. And all the rhino, and I think it's the second time I've actually heard a giraffe vocalize, made a bit of a huff, like a and I thought that black rhino would reappear in our picture, but it sadly hasn't. It, I think, has disappeared. It wasn't very comfortable with us arriving as it went about its morning duty scent marking, walking along a path, so we left it in peace. But this little giraffe with the most incredible light this morning has just walked away from its scratching post and the older giraffe here a little bit further off to our left-hand side now, busy browsing. And this youngster is just taking everything in, all the morning sights and sounds. And what an incredible view looking back over the reserves and the mountains of this reserve. We are super spoilt. Very crisp morning as well, not much of a breeze blowing. And now just to show you it looks like one of the adults is trying to get rid of an itch. Its belly is now over also what looks like a dead tree somewhat. It's not feeding. Have a look. The sunrise yoga session going on here. Getting right down there, and it might have, in between its legs, that really soft skin where things like ticks might gather, and they can be particularly irritating, and that's exactly why a giraffe like that would do what it's doing, is to get rid of said ticks. If oxpeckers, I don't think they'd take a chance to get in those nooks and crannies. But yeah, we might just enjoy these scenes for a short while, and we're going to head across to Andrew and say good morning to him.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve this morning. But we're sitting here looking at a very spotted bird over here. It's called a spotted thickney. And then I just drove almost past that bird, I realized, this is actually a bird that we don't often see around here. It's a lot of water thickney, quite a lot, but the spotted thickney is not actually always around here for us. My name's Andrew this morning. I have Simon on camera. So this is where we begin. We're actually on lions tracks, where they have actually moved in this area here. And they're actually moving towards the western boundary, which is Simbambile and the Gari boundary there. That's where we're going to be chasing after these tracks, see how far they take us to. And the temperature of today is 21 degrees Celsius, 70 Fahrenheit. So it's going to be get there where maybe it's going to be warm during the day. Remember, we're coming to you live from this location this morning, so we would like to hear from you. Also, we would love to take your questions, comments. If you can register on the WildEarth website, head over to the live Safari page, and then you can submit your questions and comment there. Then we'll be answering them for you live from this location this morning. Also, if you're under the age of 18, you can still use kids' questions. And it's such a pretty bird. Indeed, it is really beautiful. And what is beautiful about, so they operate the same behavior operational with this water thickney. The water thickney, you find them very much around the watering hole, but they don't have a pretty spot like this. So there's like a little gray a bit, kind of a stripe a little, where there's a spot. I used to call spotted peacock, which is dekop. I think it's in Afrikaans, means big head. But these one, you find them even far from the watering hole, due to the diet, which is most insect. So yeah, under the 18 years of age, still use kids questions at WildEarth.tv. Also on the YouTube channel, those are adults. You can use FC at FC. And then also on Twitter, hashtag WildEarth. So we're gonna continue following this track because I think it's been a long night for these lions and it looks like they were on the road. So in the meantime, let me take you across to Lauren to say hello to everybody.
Good morning. It's never a quiet day at the den when you have Swazi here. Yes, he's decided. Everybody's joining in on this little communal activity which happens to be right next to our vehicle. My name is Lauren. I do have Darby on camera today, and here we have Heartspare, and Swazi. Delightful shenanigans at the den as always. Swazi is thoroughly enjoying his time at the den. He's always with Heart, I've noticed. I don't know if that is a coincidence or he just... Oh, dear, oh dear. Little cubbies, do not drink that. Or whether he just likes to be around a dominant female or he just likes to be around any female. I'm not entirely sure. But he definitely likes company. Swazi is a perfect example. Why are you smelling your own urine, Swazi? You see the Fleming grimace? You see that? All three of them are doing the Fleming grimace. It's not just the leopards and the lions that do that. Hyenas do it too. But why he's trying to understand his own urine, I do not know. That is another mystery. You think he'll do it again? No. A lot of mammals do it. Even horses do it. It's just animals trying to understand chemicals, trying to understand scent by allowing air to pump in to go to that unique vomeronasal organ called the organ of Jacobson, which then sort of contains chemoreceptors which understand scent, and the message is processed in the brain so that the animals can understand what is it they are smelling. And we have another head in the den entrance. Oh, no. I'm sorry. Corky, I think. We're looking at one ear as the little cubs are trying to eat my earpiece. You did this to Trishala. You are not doing this to me. Marcel will be very upset. I think it's Corks. So her daughter must be there as well, which is very precious, seeing them at the entrance like that. I think it must be really, really cozy. I think everyone's also sleeping. I've not seen June at the den in the past few days, but I imagine she's coming here, just not when I am here, if that makes sense. June is definitely a low ranker. Whether she's at the bottom or second from the bottom, I don't feel we can conclusively say yet, which means she won't come to the den as much as Heart and Ribbon. And that's how it works. That's the trade-off for being a low ranker. There's no way that low-ranked hyenas will sort of produce offspring that can't survive. They still have to have a survival mechanism in place, and that mechanism is not to feed as frequently, but when you do feed, the milk is incredibly rich and is far richer than the milk that sort of Ribbon and Heart will be given on a daily basis. That's the counterbalance. The cubs won't be fed as frequently, but the milk they will be getting will be really nutritious in large quantities. And that's exactly how Corky's little daughter has survived. Heart is so tolerant of him. Considering he has no manners. But the minute his twin sister rocks up, the entire scenario changes. Kobe, generally speaking, hyenas have twin litters. They have two. They have sort of two mammary glands, and it's normally always two. We do see single litters, so I always feel that in a single litter, potentially one cub died, whether it was during the birthing process or after that. I've also heard it's possible for hyenas to have three, but it's highly unlikely that a third cub would survive. There's enough room for two under mum's tummy, and the strive for dominance between the pair starts from day one, if not prior to that. So I think three is probably an abnormality and not necessarily one that I think it could be some sort of genetic rarity, because there's no chance a third hyena cub could really survive. But in June's case and Corky's case, there's only one cub. So we don't know what happened. The birthing process is really, really tricky for hyenas. They have a 90-degree bend in their birthing canal. And the sort of exit, if you like, is through the hypertrophied clitoris, which is only an inch in diameter. It's very, very tricky. And a lot of cubs suffocate, and a lot of mothers also do not survive the birthing process for the first time. It's not easy for them. And there's also a protracted sort of lactation period. So that's a really, really high level of investment. So you normally find the higher level of maternal investment, the less offspring they will have. Good morning, Heart. Jolly good to see you, looking so fine and well. I would say out of all the females, and it's hard to say because you don't always see them lined up together, Heart's the biggest. She's going to interact with Corky here. Let's watch. Is that Swazi putting his tail up like that? Look at Swazi. Why are you putting your tail up, Swazi? Darcy and me too. I love the way Swazi loves the cubs. It's because he thinks he is still a cub. Look at that. Look how easily the cubs distract him. Oh, look. Heart's relaxed. Heart just came for a sniff. Wow, that was all incredibly fascinating. Of course, oh, here we go. Swazi and Corky's daughter together once again. Hey, Corks. Do not tell me you are also limping. Please tell me that's just a stiff leg. Okay, I'm just going to watch Corky a minute or two longer and hope it's just a dead leg if you like, but we're now going to send you guys across to Yappy to say good morning.
Good morning to all our viewers and welcome to andBeyond Ngala. And just look at that absolutely beautiful view. Very large, flat landscape. And everywhere we're looking, it is wilderness. I'm Yappy, and behind the camera we've got BK. And we had a lioness just down the road behind me this morning, and she was looking to hunt some impala and wildebeest. It was in these clearings here. So, I'm trying to see if we can pick up on the tracks and see which way she went. I think now that all these animals are gone, they must have definitely seen them. And, in that case, probably decided to make their way out of the way. I've also heard other lions calling in this nearby vicinity. I'm not sure exactly. With all the thick bush around us at the moment, it is very difficult to exactly pinpoint where these animals are calling from. But I'm pretty sure that she hasn't gone too far. It's a beautiful overcast morning. It's not too hot, which means that the animals will still be active and they'll still be moving at this point. When it's cooler, lions or any of the cats actually, they move quite quickly. And they can cover distances quite quickly as well, which means that they can move far. So I think we'll stick in this area, have a look, see if we can pick up on any signs. In an old mound that I think this is actually abandoned. What you see there, it's just an ant. It's not a termite. But looking at the physical structure of the mound over here, all you see it's a lot of holes that is already showing off or up because of that is not actually active anymore. And looks like it was a decent one there. It's actually very much well developed, but does sometimes when a queen die and there's nobody can carry on, breed and build a mound bigger. So many of these termites, they're all, some of them abandoned because of their situation. And all you see is so many holes. Once the rain comes every year, eventually wash off all sand down, and then all you see a lot of these holes. Now these holes belong to snakes, those mongoose. Those lizards as well. And then now you can clearly see this is actually just sand, soil structures. It's not actually cement or anything. So they spend a lot of time, use their saliva to weather the soil and then build a mound like this. So it's an old termite mound. It's not an active anymore.
So it's all settled down at the den. Corks is still here. Hart and Corks, there was really no aggression. I mean, Hart went over to sniff. Corks put her ears down, got a little bit nervous. There was a small vocalization. But between the two females, really, there was nothing aggressive. Corky's behaving submissively to the dominant individuals, which is exactly how it should be. There's no need for Hart to constantly be aggressive or assert her dominance when Corky's acting submissively. Tswalu was a little bit of a puzzle there. I mean, he comes from a high-ranking mother. He comes from Pretty, who we believed was second in the hierarchy and Corky's best friend. And why can I say best friend without sounding too sort of like I'm anthropomorphizing? Well, social alliances in hyenas are very, very important. They do form loose friendships, and maybe friendships is not the right word, maybe relationship is the right word, but Corky and Pretty were always very tight. They were the top two. So Tswalu probably still has that high-ranking mentality. Because he's a male, the females probably don't assert too much dominance over him, but they do his twin sister. But Corky and Hart are now lying right next to one another. And of course, Wazzy, well, he's playing with the cubs. What else? It's June and Corky that I want to see interact. I do have a funny feeling that June might be at the bottom, and I know many of you agree, but really, until you see these things, it's impossible to conclusively say. The hyenas can surprise you. And with Corks, you look at her face. Oh. She's quite heavily scarred. You can see she's fought many battles. And she's obviously missing that triangular tip on her left ear, but it's also split. And that's a really easy way to recognize Corks. Her face is sort of more scarred than the others, I would say. But she's still a key player in the clan. She's still important. Ninja, incredibly so. Incredibly so. They have the ability to recognize every member of their clan's call, and they have up to 14 different calls. They recognize each other's scent as well. They also have very intricate and complex dynamics in the social structure. You've got to know your place. You've got to know where you are on this ladder. Oh, hold on, this is interesting. And therefore, in order to understand that, your cognitive abilities must be remarkably high, and they're said to be smarter than chimps. So when you look at any species' frontal cortex, that's sort of linked to social intelligence. And the hyena's frontal cortex and the brain is on par with primates. So there was a really fascinating study, you can actually research it, done by Duke University, and it used a captive pair of hyenas. So it was performed in captivity, but they showed to be better at problem solving and social cooperation than chimpanzees. So chimpanzees were also excellent at solving the problems they were presented, but they did it verbally. They communicated with one another, whereas it was remarkable that hyenas solved all of the problems in a really short space of time. They were quick, and they were using non-verbal signs for communication. They were not communicating. Whether they were using sort of... Sorry about that. Yes, they were not verbalizing. They were using some other form of communication to solve the problems together, which is fascinating. And they just have this reputation of being demonic animals that devour the dead. And it's sad because they're incredibly intelligent. And when we see these acts of aggressiveness and the tails up and dominance, we understand very little of it. Really, I mean, we understand that this individual is trying to assert dominance over another individual. But really, there's so much at play here. There's so much going on in clan dynamics. And the fact that they all use a communal den like this, they all come here, they all spend time together, they perform greeting ceremonies. It's a big act of trust. I am letting you sniff my genitalia, and you potentially have one of the most powerful bites in the mammalian world, and yet I am trusting you. They could really have... Cox, what are you doing? You've been very dramatic this morning, Corky. Oh, yeah, she's still got that injury on her left elbow. You see that? It's still swollen. That's from about a month ago, if not longer. That's why she's limping a little bit. I'm not sure we're going to even get a view of it, but we witnessed her a while back with a very swollen elbow, if you like, and it's still quite swollen. Just here, Davi, you see that? No, so as he's going to bomb the shot. And Corks knows how to survive. She was a matriarch. She knows how to survive here, being at the bottom. Stephanie, that's a very tricky one. We know their lineage up to a certain point, but as for relations from the females, I'm not sure I could possibly say whether they're related or not. And Tima's obviously Ribbon's daughter, we know that much. We know the cub's mothers. The lineage extends back a little bit in time, but I would say it's only sort of fairly recently that the Hyena clan, at least when WildEarth has been here, has been extensively studied. So in terms of their relations as adults, I'm just going to shoot them all away. They're all playing at the side of the car. In terms of their relationships as adults, I'm not really sure. I could say that. They may be related, they may be distantly related, they may not be related at all. I would say hyenas are becoming a topic of interest. Dynasties, the new dynasties apparently include spotted hyenas. Josh, yes, absolutely. There are twins in nature. There can be non-identical twins and, of course, identical twins. Now, with hyenas, there could absolutely be identical twins because they produce a twin litter. They produce two. And with Swazi here, the big boy that's causing lots of trouble, him and his twin sister in the belly, they look remarkably similar. I'm convinced that they are identical. So when it's identical twins in animals, it's very difficult to sort of prove, but twin litters, even in elephants, some elephants can have twins. I think Tristan had a sighting with twins maybe last year. So yes, in nature, absolutely. They're all very alert at the time. They never fully relax. Something's alerting them, something's upsetting them. William, for males, they become sexually mature at 2 years old. But it's highly unlikely that they'll start mating immediately at 2 years old. They obviously have to find a female in estrus, and that female has to be receptive towards them. And it depends if they stay in their natal clan or they disperse. And for the females, they become sexually mature around 3 years old. But again, they may not start mating straight away. They'll probably go into a pseudo-estrus first. Then the full estrus cycle will start. I believe with hyenas, it will also depend on resources. So for example, if you're a high-ranked individual, you may start mating first because you're in better condition, you're bigger, you're at the top, you get the say over males, your sort of estrus cycle, the onset may happen first. It's very sweet. Whereas if you're a low-ranked individual, you may not be in as good condition. You may sort of be bullied, you're pushed out of the clan, you're weak, and your estrus cycle, the onset, may start a little bit later. But technically speaking, 2 years of age, sexually mature for males, and 3 years old for females. But normally you start to see females have their first litter around 4. They are promiscuous, so they will mate with different males. Males that have been accepted into the clan. So if you're an immigrant male, I imagine they won't choose to mate with you for quite some time. So although biologically and physiologically you are ready to mate, I don't think they're going to accept you and choose you for quite a while. So your opportunities might not come until around 4 years old. But you've been ready since you were 2. Corky's had enough. She's got a full belly and she's done. I think she's going to walk away very shortly. Oh no, she's coming back. Why you throw me under the bus here, Corky? It's just non-stop at the den when it's like this. When you've got mothers, cubs and sub-adults, it's just non-stop. And although hyenas have a reputation for being smelly and not so hygienic, they don't actually defecate anywhere near the communal den. They will in the periphery on the boundaries, but you never see sort of any defecation right here or any scat right at the communal den. They don't do that. So Dobby and I are going to sit here a little bit longer and enjoy all the fun at the den. And for now, we're going to send you across to Yappy.
Oh, so we have just been looking for some tracks of the lioness that we had earlier this morning, but unfortunately we haven't found any. And we have come across the tracks of a female leopard moving all along the road at this point. Now where we are, this is a boundary road, which means that if the animal goes off to the right, then unfortunately we won't be able to follow it. And from what I can see at this point, it looks like she's been moving all along this road, marking territory. So what I'm assuming is that it's one of the female leopards that we see in this area, a large female. She is territorial. And we're hoping that we might have some luck with her. The tracks doesn't look too old. It looks like it was from the early morning. But she might have been influenced by the lions moving through this area, which meant that she would have heard them and probably made her way a little bit further away from where they were moving. Matt, what we're looking for when we're tracking lions is we're generally looking for empty spaces and nervous animals if we're lucky. But we're looking for the tracks on the road, the actual paw prints of the animals that they leave when they're moving on the roads. And then we're also looking for any other signs, any signs that they might have moved through, like the remains of an animal if they ate something small. We listen out for the noises that they make, the calls that they give, any sort of thing like that. Also, other animals, when they see predators, they usually make a noise. They will shout, or they'll alarm, as we call it. And with impala, it was just the one
that is most likely to call, because there are so many and they are generally quite alert. We listen for that sneezing noise. And then we also look for other signs, like signs of lots of hyena activity in the area. If the hyenas are moving up and down in an area, hyenas often find the tracks of other predators and then they track them actively. So they might follow, try and see if they get lucky. If those predators do get to hunt and be successful, then the hyenas might be lucky and get something to eat. Zafiri, do hyena have a good sense of smell? Excellent. Better than any dog. I have read once that someone likened it to about 9 times more scent receptors than a bloodhound. And we do know that whenever they pick up on the scent, they follow it straight. They keep on the road or they keep along a pathway where they can follow it, and you'll be surprised. I've watched hyena before stand on one side of a clearing where there was a baby jackal in the clearing on the complete opposite side, and the clearing must have been at least 300 meters across, and the hyenas picked up on the scent of that jackal in the wind and moved straight towards the last spot where it was. Luckily the little jackal saw them early on and ran off, so they didn't get it. The area that we're in now, it's nice and dense. It's close to the riverbed, and in between there's these scattered open spaces, which is a good space for lion to move on a morning like this. The lion will use the cover nearby to stalk their prey from, watch them first and then stalk. They usually watch to see if there's any sort of complication for one of the animals, or an animal that might be injured or at a disadvantage of some sort, and then they'll go after that. We're the same with the leopard, and they might spend a lot of time just watching a herd of impala or watching a herd of wildebeest. Now I know this particular area is also riddled with game paths and lots of hyenas moving through this area, and we're gonna have a look, see if there might be any fresh. While we keep looking for the lions, we'll send you back over to Lauren with the hyena den.
So Corky has in fact disappeared, but everyone else remains here, causing havoc. The vehicles are just the best things ever. Hey, there we go, under the car. Hyena cubs just love cars, and it's funny because the adults don't. They have really never had an adult, even up in the Masai Mara, come and smell the car and chew the tire, and you wouldn't allow that if it was an adult, but I mean, Hart shows absolutely no interest in the vehicle whatsoever. Ribbon doesn't even blink when you appear. She's so habituated. But for the cubs, it's just the best thing ever. I mean, a vehicle. Who could resist? Now, I think Yapi was just talking about a hyena's sense of smell, and what is really fascinating to me is that hyenas recognize each other by audio, by their calls. We know that. But here, Hart's sleeping. She's got one little cub there, maybe 2 coming in soon. And Swazi ran in. He disappeared for about 5 minutes and then he ran in to see everyone again, just being playful. And Hart looked at him and just did not react. He's running at her at full speed, no reaction. Hart knows he's just a big goofball and he wants to play with the cubs. But if andBeyond runs in right now from the same direction towards Hart, Hart's going to jump up and react. How is she differentiating between the two? They're both like really, really similar looking. You can't tell the difference, but they're very, very similar looking. Similar size, similar coloration at this stage. andBeyond most likely will get a lot bigger when she comes into her prime. Are they visually identifying them? Obviously, they can identify them by scent. But I mean, if you have a hyena running at you, it's probably going to take a second to process the scent. Are they recognizing each and every one of their clan by sight? If they do, that's remarkable. A lot of species out here only recognize each other through scent. They will all have a unique code, a unique barcode in terms of scent where they can all recognize one another. Or did Hart just know that Swazi's around, so he's here, it has to be Swazi? And it's remarkable. I think they do recognize one another individually as well by sight. And considering how difficult it can be for us sometimes to identify, that's very impressive, especially if it's the case for large clans as well, like the North Clan and the Masai Mara. This is a very small clan. Or do they not recognize each other by sight? Is it purely through scent? You can see another hyena and you recognize their scent immediately because you can smell them from very far away, and then you know it's one of your clan members. It's not an intruder. It's not an enemy. It's part of the clan. I'm not sure. So I think we will leave the den now. Let them have some sleep, and we'll bumble on and see what else we can find.
How insane is that animal?
This is out of this world. Fantastic. Good, Mama.
Wow, what a way to start off.
Just such an incredible privilege to be out here. It just keeps on delivering.
There you go, there you go. Heart is pumping right now.
3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Look at this, everybody. We've got a live kill.
The croc's holding the tail. It's holding tight. Lucky wildebeest. There's nowhere to go. This is a disaster in the making.
Something that I have never seen before in my entire life that you are now watching live.
My heart is in my mouth, everybody.
Look at this. It's gonna make it. It's going, it's going.
This is just too magical. Hi, little guys. That's great, isn't it? Look at that. Scuba Steve has got a friend.
You've got a friend in me.
It couldn't be a better morning. This is just too special.
Oh my goodness, we've got a turtle.
How epic is the fact that we're coming to you live from the Chobe River? It's the most incredible feeling to be here. This is live, and we're in Rwanda. This is a very, very different adventure, charged with emotion.
I did not think I would ever face my fears like this.
Cool, so now we're within the elephant. It looks like a female over here, which means could be more than one. Once you see a female, then it means she's part of the herd. But now we're following that line tracks, and it looks like they cross into Manyeleti, which is another reserve northwest of us. So we're just gonna leave it there. Search for something else. Of course, we've got an elephant. Well, it looked like to me she's actually picking up marula fruit from the ground. There's a second one joined. January, February, that's the marula season fruit. Some trees are starting to ripe this fruit. And elephants spend a lot of their time picking this fruit up. Oh, there looks like more of a member coming along the road. So Mike, you're asking if the elephants can stand on their back leg on... I've seen elephants reach for a top branch, which they do that when they need to reach something further up. And of course, but they always has to stand on their all legs. And that standing, reaching the branches, whatever on top, I hardly seen them move when they do that. They're just static when they do that. And reach, stretch up and reach the whatever they need, and then always step on their all legs again. But it's common that they use this technique of switching these legs when they stand for a long time. One leg will be up. 3 legs will be standing just to support the whole weight of the animal. Looks like that's a beautiful herd over here. Little one. They will probably find himself under that tree, all of them, I think. So they would probably, eventually group around, surrounding that tree underneath, because of I think for now, this is only the tree out here. And it's amazing how they know these trees that is already available with this fruit. And then we're able to then visit those trees, able to gain access through, collect their fruit. This one looks like a young male. It's got a funny looking ears, floppy ear. So I'm gonna take another moment here, see if these elephants all arrive into this very beautiful tree. I'm gonna be sending you across to mate with his giant.
Welcome back, everybody. We went looking in search of that leopard we saw last night and have found a white rhino and her calf, and a really, really young calf at that. Just beyond Mom, we might be able to get a glimpse of them now as they walk away. There you go, you can just see that little calf there, barely the same height as the quarry there behind Mom. I'm not going to start or move because the engine noise is definitely going to startle her. We actually surprised them as we came around the corner, and she trotted off, curled her tail up and trotted off. So somewhat of a sign of distress, but you can see they've relaxed now, tail down. Mom's just making sure of us that we pose no threat. But that little one's horn has only just started poking out. So I'd say not even a year old. It's minute, and you can just see its bum now in comparison to the size of Mom. Tiny. Hoping that it turns around where it is, so you're able to see that. Have a look at those ears already at such a young age, just tuning in to everything, facing back from the constant hum of my voice. But this morning we've had there it goes as it trots off. Just to keep up to Mom, it has to trot. We might just get a gap of them now if they keep moving. Oh, no, they're coming back left. There's Mom. Lovely little bit of light this morning on them. Just keep quiet for a while to see if that youngster doesn't emerge behind Mom's head now. Have a look at those ears, constantly tuning in on their surroundings. Might get a glimpse of that youngster now as it walks across. No. But those ears just constantly tuning in to her surroundings. Obviously that Mom has to be quite a bit more aware with such a young calf. Shreya, you're asking how long it takes for that horn to fully grow? That horn doesn't stop growing. Like your fingernails and hair, same substance, keratin, which has no value whatsoever, or medicinal value, should I say. Will never stop growing, and they'll constantly shape that horn. You might see them up on termite mound or the likes, just rubbing their noses, trying to shape that horn. But it grows at around 6 to 8 centimeters every year. There you can just see that tiny little head behind Mom now. It is minute, and usually the youngsters are a little bit more energetic and playful. But this one maybe just because we surprised them coming around the corner, just relaxing a little bit more. But in the cool of the morning you might see them trotting around and pacing up and down. This one I don't think comes up to even half of Mom's height just yet. It is honestly minute. You might notice those ears constantly flicking and twitching of both the youngster and Mom. Myself and Owen have been playing Fruit Ninja with flies all morning, trying to bat them away from us. They've been quite persistent and irritating. But the same on Mom's back. If she moves, you might see almost like a sheet of them lifting off her back. And those constant flicks of ears likewise that you see with other mammals and predators, constantly flicking their ears to get rid of those pesky flies. There's that tiny little head. I think it's just gone and lay down next to Mom. And now that it's done that, it's just completely disappeared. But for such a youngster, it literally has to trot to keep up with Mom as she walks around. So just catching up on some rest, much needed rest. Caswell, you're asking if rhinos without horns are vulnerable to predators. Well, it's actually a bit of a catch-22 because rhinos with horns, particularly males, can end up killing one another with those horns. They're almost like toothpicks, super sharp and strong with 2.5 tons behind it. If they fight, they can end up, piercing organs and the likes, and they can end up dying. But to answer your question, obviously it's the one and only defense mechanism, but they are rather large mammals, so predators are not going to try their luck that much. Although I have heard of one of the Ngala guides, Eric, witnessing hyenas pestering rhino so much so that I think it eventually succumbed to exhaustion, and they were able to then bring that rhino down. And I'm not 100% sure if that rhino had its horn or not, but that was just hyenas literally hounding it, for the better use of the word, constantly bombarding it from either side, just trying to tire it out. And there, I don't think a horn will help you, especially when there's more than one hyena bothering you. So yes and no to answer your question. It is its defense mechanism, but there is 2.5 tons behind that, and I think every mom will tell you that maternal instinct to defend her youngsters is something that no one will be able to tell you about but a mom. And these moms will literally put themselves between, as she's doing now, she's put herself between us and her calf. Will defend that little calf with her life. I just know that if I start this vehicle and move forward, it's going to startle them even more. So just waiting for them to hopefully see. I see a little bit of movement further to the right now. We might get a glimpse of them walking back over the hill. And it's already really warm for 6:30 this morning. Might just venture off. There were a couple of mud wallows from that good rain that we had the other day. Might have a bit of a mud wallow, cake themselves in mud to try and cool off, and then carry on grazing for the remainder of the day. We sadly haven't had any more luck with that female leopard. Did see tracks, but the area that she was in is rather thick, so to try and track it down in there, even if we were lucky enough to find it, I don't think we'd be able to drive in and get a view. So maybe this afternoon Grant has a little bit more luck than us this morning. But incredible to see, and really encouraging to see this particular mum. Wait, maybe before I speak too soon, maybe she makes another appearance. Stopped again just on the right hand side behind this sickle bush, which has really pretty pink and yellow flowers. I'm not sure if you can see those, but I think I'm going to leave them in peace and carry on for the morning and see what else we can find. But we're going to head across to Andrew.
So we now have left the elephant So we're checking now the boundary, and the guys, they're still interested in going checking for these right of line tracks that were seems to cross into Manyeleti. They hope to find them if they do come back to Beblisuk again, so I got to make space for them there. So I'm back on the boundary, Djuma and Gari and Beblisuk. But if they get luck, find them, more likely to try go there, see if we can put them on the shore. Looks like they have actually moved a long way, and I don't think they actually kill anything. I'm just not sure where they are now or what they're doing. So you're asking how many lines form the Pride. So the Pride, it's anything from 3-4 lines, and then up to that, then you find maybe 10 upwards in the Pride. I've seen 2 lionesses, which I know the number of that Pride was going down until it was only 2 left, and they still made it through and breed again. So as long as the male around to breed with them, so the Pride started more than one animal. So during the breeding, and then the number increased so much where you find then you have all 7 sometimes in 2 years' time, 5 years' time, you find so many in the Pride already. Oh yeah, elephants. Thanks so much. Simon. Actually, Simon spotted these elephants while I was just checking on the ground. Isn't this beautiful? To have elephants again underneath of that marula tree, but at the moment looks like now is a different things they're doing. I'm just gonna check. Now it's all about stripping off the bark. Of that tree. Poor marula tree. It looks like it still have a tiny little fruit on top. And then it's still going to ripe this year, I think. See how she does that. So she bites it and then strip off. She goes again. So then so you asking how common for the elephant tusk to break. It is quite common. Depend on the behavior of that animal in terms of how they use them, especially males, where they go to fight, use them, self-defense, they break from that fight, or from pushing big tree down, and got to be careful there. Sometimes only one of the chances the tusk may break. Female break them during this time where they now, as we can see here, busy peeling off this bark. So it is quite common. It looks like this is actually a young male. Being that's destructive. And the tusk, when they break off, usually doesn't grow back. So now we're talking about the rhino that, that horn, kind of like a fingernail type of material, where on the elephant, it's solid bone, grow from inside. And they need them during their lives to be able to feed, defend themselves. Elizabeth, so you're asking, was any strange behavior of the elephants that I ever come across? Not a marked charge or anything that I can recall. But elephants, they have a very strange behavior for sure, where they, especially this male, when they just come en masse, well, they sometimes, they're very chill. They just show a behavior of very relaxed when you don't understand them. And then you're more likely to get close to them with the vehicle. Some guys does that. But the minute that elephants turn around, then it's too bad, or he was just gonna change his mood immediately. For a change, then it's the result of probably damage to a car, or sometimes they just freeze, doing nothing on a right open. And sometimes they don't even look what is coming close by to them, but the next moment they turn around and they're frightened so bad. So sometimes that's not actually type of warning. So type of warning is when the animal come from way off and display or pause enough when they move towards you. They show kind of like they're big enough when they move. They step foot they do, it's kind of like down and up and down. So that's actually one of the behavior that shows that are they going to move away, or I'm too big, you're going to get out? They definitely stop, and once they realize you're not moving. Mock charge, it's all about testing on your strength, whether you run or not, whether you skate or not. On her right inside. She seems to be not moving since we got here, so and I'm not sure what she's doing there. Probably resting. Can do that sometimes, wait for long before they move. Mark, you're asking how heavy elephant can get. So, a newborn baby weighs roughly 100 kilogram, less than 100 kilograms sometimes. And the female, fully grown female, weighs 3.5 ton to 4 ton upwards. Male would weigh anything from 5 to 5.5 ton to 6 ton, or over 6 ton. Some bulls. And one of the heaviest out here of a mammal. So I'm gonna check now the wild dog tracks, how far they've gone since they were seen tracks last night. We couldn't find them.
And unfortunately, we have had no luck yet. It seems like the lions have crossed off the reserve, and we haven't found any further signs of that female leopard, and that is because the soils are so hard and the surfaces are very tough to see tracks after the rain. We've also been spending a lot of time in this particular area, driving the roads round, checking the blocks, and we haven't head down into the river and take a slow drive along the river to see if we might have any luck. But it is a beautiful day indeed, and it's starting to warm up. So I think animals might water the puddles in the riverbed, in between the reeds, where it's nice and cool. You can see these beautiful big jackalberry trees all along the banks. Lots of russet bush willows in this particular part, and leadwoods. all beautiful big trees. Either.
We have not got much updates for you, I'm afraid, but what I did realize is that I didn't talk about the Talamatis. My apologies. It was a little bit of a surprise for everybody that the drive ended the way it did, but that wider is not playing ball. Draffy and I have been trying for about 5 minutes to get you a broad-tailed wider, but it's not playing ball. So yes, the Talamatis did not get lucky last night. You've probably gathered already. They did go for the Impala, and apparently it was pandemonium all round. They missed the Impala alarm calling, panic. Lots of the females were on this side, females on this side. They had completely coordinated themselves. Some of the lions were actually trying to chase the Impala to the other lions lying in wait, and it was not successful. Then they went after a zebra. And apparently they cornered the zebra, but something went wrong and it was dark, and we did decide to leave. We were no longer part of that sighting. And yes, it wasn't lucky. But it was crazy, and it all happened right outside our camp. But for some reason, the Talamatis did not strike gold last night. They tried. They made three attempts, 2 Impala, 1 zebra, and it was not successful. I apologize for not mentioning that earlier. Yes. Wonderful way to end the drive, I guess. So we're going to bumble into Torchwood. Torchwood is not the greatest for signal, which is why we sometimes don't go there. But it also holds the key to leopards like Tandy cub, Kuchava cub, Ikanyeni cub, and Quarantine. So we may as well see any signs of them. It's a beautiful property. It's very large, bigger than Djuma. We may as well try and see if we can spot signs of them all. Kanyeni's been in a kill for the past few days on Torchwood, but she's been in the very southeastern corner, and it's just a little bit too far for us. It's right at the Kruger National Park boundary. So it's just marginally too far. That name, did you, Davi? Hakrit. You're asking about hyenas. Well, the Hyenidae family consists of 4 different species that you will find in Africa. There are other places in the world that you see them too, but you're asking about Africa. So you have the brown hyena, the spotted hyena, the striped hyena, and the aardwolf, believe it or not. They are the one family, and it's known as Hyenidae. And probably the aardwolf out of them all is the one that sort of stands out and doesn't completely fit in. What do you see, Dad? Oh, we see a terrapin on the road. Yep. Is it though a terrapin, Davi? I think it's a tortoise. I think it's a speaks-hinged tortoise. Good morning. I don't think one knows where to go today. Shall I go into Torchwood or shall I go into Chitwa? Decisions. Now the speaks-hinged, this will most likely be an adult. It's much smaller than the leopard tortoise. The leopard tortoise carapace is very dome-shaped. It's very dome-shaped and it can grow really, really large. With the speaks hinged, it's very, very flat on top. It doesn't have that sort of curve. And that's how you know the difference between the two. But I don't think this one wants to play ball. Can you get him from here, Dad? There we go. And the speaks hinged alongside the leopard are the most common species that we'll get out here. We do get terrapins too, though. We probably scared them a little bit just with the vehicle. They do try to get off the road when they hear vehicles coming, which is a good thing. Now, the Speaks hinge is less common than the tortoise. The leopard tortoise, sorry, that's far more common. And the reason it's called hinged, it's got that word in its title, is because it actually has a flexible hinge right at the back of the carapace. So you're actually looking at it. It's just not entirely visible from this position. And one of the scutes is flexible, and it basically allows the adult to close off the sort of back of the shell. And essentially it's protecting its rear end from any predators that may be approaching from behind. It's carnivorous. It will also snack on mushrooms, believe it or not, fungi, but it's mainly carnivorous, and it loves to eat the giant land snails. Goodbye, Mr. Tortoise. I think you're a little bit camera shy today. So Torchwood is to my left, Chitwa to my right, and we are going to cross in at one of the next main roads. Daniela, you are 9 years old. I'm just going to get Davy to turn my volume up a little bit. Just jump down. But Daniela, yes, they do. Hyenas will eat almost anything. Anything. Including all the remains in our garbage bin in camp, yes. Coffee's very important in our camp. We wake up very early, and I'm normally the first at the coffee pot. That's when James is not here. And one morning we went, and the kettle was completely missing in action. The base of the kettle was there, but the actual kettle itself was gone. We're horrified. So we had to go back to basics and boil water on the stove. Can you imagine? And it turns out Swazi had taken the kettle. And it was miles away, but it was found. We did get our kettle back. But they will eat anything. They will chew on your shoes. And yes, tortoises are actually fantastic snacks because they have got one of the most powerful bites in the animal kingdom. They can crunch right through that shell. And that shell is strong. It's made from a rib cage. So just like our rib cage, it's made from bone. It's just ribs that have fused together, and then it's covered on layer of keratin in the form of scutes. It's very strong, but hyenas can crunch right through. And once they crunch right through, they can obviously eat the insides of the tortoise. So yes, absolutely they will. Oh, there's millipedes everywhere. Okay, we're going to head into Torchwood very shortly and hopefully find some new spots for y'all. But for now, over to Yapi.
So, we haven't found lions yet. And one of the reasons why I know that the lions have moved a little bit further than this particular area creature. Just have a look at that. No worry at all. Currently busy digesting or chewing the cud and ruminating. You can see the lower jaw moving. And look at this long. It's not often that you get to have a good close-up view of a wildebeest, and I'm actually really surprised at how relaxed this one is. I think the conditions are just so perfect to do it. With the cooler weather, it's out in the clearing, good food around, water. Now, this is a male wildebeest, and there are two others nearby as well. You often find that in the mornings after the animals have gone for a drink, which this wildebeest had from one of the nearby puddles. You go lay down, rest, and chew the cud. I think what happened there is these animals might have noticed the lions during the night, heard them call, and then where they went, which is why to settle. And have a look at that eye. I know wildebeests are known to not have the greatest of eyesight. But I've often noticed that they do pick up on some quite far off in the distance. Along with their eyesight, they've also got excellent sense of hearing. But I think we might leave this wildebeest to enjoy the morning sunlight and move on from here.
Good luck, happy. So now, changing our mind. Looks like these lions, pride, have been spotted.
Apologies about that. But you're back with us. We're still navigating into Torchwood. It's very thick here. And I'm literally just looking for any signs of tracks on the ground at this stage. Wow, look at that termite, man. That is huge. Imagine seeing a leopard perched up the top of that termite mound. Compared to the one we were looking at yesterday, that is massive. Wow, that must be hundreds and hundreds of years old. Very impressive. Okay, let's get on our mission. Now, Tandy spends a lot of time away from her cub now, so you might actually find that you found him and not necessarily always her. Davy, are we able to get a view of that land snail from here? Or is my parking horrible? Oh, it's horrible. I can't even admit that. Okay, now. We were just talking about the African land snails, a favourite snack of the Speaks-hinged tortoise. Not exactly the most, you'll never have a Ferrari safari for a land snail, I'll tell you that much. But otherwise, they're incredible. They're hermaphrodites, real hermaphrodites. Now, why I say real is a lot of people think hyenas are hermaphrodites, and they're definitely not. They have separate sexes, albeit a little confusing. And if you think you are a land snail, and you're looking for a mate, however, you're one of the slowest moving organisms out here. And it's a very, very large terrain. How on earth are you going to find another one? Then what if you finally get lucky and you're a female? You're the Lauren version of a land snail. And eventually you find another land snail and you think, yes, this is my chance. I get the chance to mate. But it turns out it's another female. It's another Lauren. It was a complete waste of time. So how do they get around that? Well, they're hermaphrodites, and it makes sense. They contain both male and female sex organs, and it's fantastic. So when you finally do meet another snail, it doesn't matter if they're male or female, you can still meet. Yes, you do a little bit of a dance, and one will take on the role as male, and the other one will automatically assume the role as female. But still, it doesn't matter. You just meet any sort of individual, and you can mate with them. But there's different types of hermaphrodism. You can be normally the sort of most common one is sequential. And this is when you will start off as one sex in your life and you will change as you become an adult. So if you start off as a male and you go into a female, this is called protandry. Then vice versa, if you start off your life as a female and you slowly change into a male at later stage in your life, this is protogyny. You can also get serial sort of bi-directional sex changes where you just keep bouncing. Bounce, 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 male, female. But that's far less common. Or you get simultaneous hermaphrodites, and that's what we're looking at right now. The snail, well, we're not looking at it, you're looking at me. But if I reposition, maybe we can look at it once again. Now, this is when you are both male and female at the same time. You're simultaneous. You don't change. You don't start off your life. How can I just lose the slowest moving? It's right there. How is that angle for you, Davy? It's all right. I don't think he's riveted. Is this not a riveting sighting for you? So yes, if you think of sequential, a good example of that and one of the most iconic, famous examples is the clownfish, the anemone fish. Or should we say the Nemos, the black, white and orange fish in Finding Nemo. Now, they start off their life as males. It's got a social structure, believe it or not. Not too unlike... I was going to say termites, but that's not correct. They have a social structure where the female, the dominant lead female, she's the largest, will be the only female in that group of fish that live on the anemone. Every other fish will be male. And what happens is she will lay eggs. And those eggs will all hatch into males. Every single one of them. There will be no juvenile females. Then those males will naturally start to get bigger. So they'll go into the next phase of their life cycle, and then they'll become adults. But the adults will not all be equal in size. They'll be different in size. And there's only one female in that entire group. Now, if that female passes away, then the next male, the next largest and biggest male, will change into a female through hormonal changes. It's an environmental cue. He sees that the female has died. There'll be lots of biological processes that change in his body, and he becomes the dominant female, but only the largest one. Amazing. So that is a sequential hermaphrodite. They've got the organs and the ability, the equipment to be both sexes, but they only change, and not when the female dies. It's triggered by her absence, and not all males in that group of anemone fish will become females. Not all of them. They all can, they all have the ability to, but that doesn't mean they all will. So that's sequential, but the giant land snail, that's simultaneous hermaphrodites. And it's all due to their unique survival. It's not very easy finding another giant land snail out here. I'm struggling to find animals. Never mind find a mate in the form of a land snail. And that's exactly why they are equipped with both male and female sex organs. It's really remarkable, evolution coming up with this solution to organisms like that. I mean, there's lots of bizarre solutions. My favorite's the frogfish. My favorite fish in the entire world, the frogfish, the ones with the lure, they're also called angler fish. They put out the lure that brings in the prey, and then they eat them. And again, they're slow-moving fish, they're bulky, not very attractive looking, shall we say. And they've got to find a mate in the huge, vast ocean, the deep, dark depths of the ocean. How do you find a mate? And what if you find one, and again, it's a female? What's the solution to that? Well, it's not to be a hermaphrodite, but what it is when you find a male, never let him go, literally. He fuses onto her body. He's much smaller than her, much, much smaller than her, and he literally opens his mouth, fuses on, and he can never separate from her. So she will be walking along the seafloor with lots of different males attached to her. When she finds one, she just never lets go. And they constantly supply her with sperm, so she can always fertilize her eggs. Amazing. It's amazing how biology comes up with these solutions to difficult problems, like finding mates. I mean, we have Tinder and Bumble and all sorts of resources on the internet, bars, clubs, whatever. But sometimes it's very difficult. If you're a small, slow-moving organism in a great, big, vast landscape, how do you find your partner? And that's some of nature's most weirdest, wonderful examples. Okay, I'm going to continue my bottle of torchwood, and for now, we're going to send you across to Yapi.
And we are currently busy driving down the riverbed towards the den site of the lions. Well, where we know that there's a female keeping her cubs at this point. And finally, after we came past this area, later on in the morning, a male lion came down into the riverbed. Now, he was left on his own by the last vehicle that saw him, and we're heading straight there. You can see some impala. Oh, there's a male lion with some impalas right ahead of him in the distance. That is actually pretty amazing. And can you... Now more, they're not even fazed by him. Well, until he turns his head. You can see they're just stopping and staring at him. They'd rather keep an eye on him than run away. And one might ask the question, why would they not run away further, or why wouldn't he try to hunt them? At that distance, with his bulk, there's no chance. Those impalas are way too quick. Have a look at him. Concerned father of what we know to be possibly 3 young cubs. We haven't seen any more. We only saw 3 as the lioness carried them across the riverbed a while back. And they were still tiny at that point. Their eyes were still closed. But what a view, though. Dizzy, what a phenomenal scene indeed. Having a view of the greater area like that with the impala in the background, it's actually really interesting to see. Like, I know when you think of these 2 animals at the opposite end of the food chain, you tend to think that, you know, from the lion's side, there's severe danger towards the impala, and from their side, they're just the prey. But the animals do live together, and you often see scenes like this where if there's no immediate danger, then the animals will just go on. You can see there's a definite concern, since it is a lion, but there's no interest from his side to try and hunt them. He's not even paying attention to them at this point. I'm sure he's very aware of them. You can hear them alarming at him. And he's just here because he's concerned about his cubs. Well, as concerned as a male lion can be. I think he's just gone to go lay down, so I think that's probably what he was doing before these impalas arrived and came down. If you look at him now, you can see, you can actually hardly see him. He blends in perfectly if it wasn't for his tail flicking in the ears every now and again. And it's probably when they came down from the riverbank, where they were more than likely feeding in the denser bush. They didn't even see him up until such time where they were already down in the riverbed. But even they can pick up now that he's not interested. Kelly, I'm not sure. By the looks of it, it looks like that belly is quite rounded. And even if it wasn't a large meal, it looks like it might have had something at least. But it might also be the angle that it's laying in the riverbed with the little wobbles that the sand make. Often it can be confusing. I know this lion's brother and some of the other lionesses of the pride have been eating the last 2 days, which we didn't get to see, but we know that they finished off the remains of a wildebeest. Where this one, we actually haven't seen him 2 days prior to yesterday, so we're not sure exactly where he was and what he was up to. But it does look like he's had something. Now, with a cool day like this, where the clouds are covering the sun's harsh rays, at least this time of the morning still it's cool enough. For him, the best place to be is out in the open. This riverbed sand would be nice and cool now. He's probably had a long night of walking around. And if he wasn't walking around too much, he was probably spending a lot of energy calling. But I think Let's try and get a closer view of him. Now, somewhere off to our right, in one of these thick bushes, that's where at least one lioness is keeping her cubs at this point. And then the rest of the pride, Dizzy, if I got the name correctly, is... we're not too sure. This morning I had tracks of them. They look like they crossed out of Ngala. So I'm not entirely sure where they are. I know I had one lioness early morning and she was busy hunting, but she's also moved off in the direction where the rest of the pride is. They're in the larger vicinity, I'm sure. They wouldn't be too far. And we also had one other male and a female with 2 cubs yesterday, which was more or less in this area as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if they pop up somewhere later in the morning. But I think we might stay here with this one for a little while and see what happens and what he does.
For the month of January 2021, we are offering a chance to win a unique WildEarth expedition to the magnificent Tswalu Kalahari. From the ancient Tortoise Mountains to the southern Kalahari's red sand dunes, Tswalu offers what travelers crave most: space and time. The winner will explore this landscape in a vehicle, on foot, or on horseback, with a chance to go behind the scenes with WildEarth and of course meet the meerkats. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend at the luxury multi-lodge, including flights from either Johannesburg or Cape Town. Open to all WildEarth explorers who have signed up before the end of January 2021. Terms and conditions apply.
My name is Moritz and I come to you live every day from Tswalu Kalahari here in South Africa. My favorite thing is probably the predators. And as you can see, we're looking at some of them right now. These are the kings of the Kalahari. Spending time with the cats, it's just a privilege. And I love their behavior, you know, the more that you look at them, just the power and the sheer beauty and elegance of them.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth.
Hello, boy. You are a monster. And he's coming right up to us. Hello, boy. Oh, settle down. Settle down. He is very, very close. He's pushing his trunk against the car. You can feel the car moving. Hey, 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 hey. Stop that.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Welcome back everybody to Phinda, where we're having to do a little bit of PR work here. We found several trees littered with white-backed vultures. You can see in picture, there are a couple of them there. I think there are about 4 in that tree. There's one just below to the left and a couple in the tree on the left. Further to our right, there's another dead tree with a whole lot of them perched in there. Some of them have taken it off now. It's warming up significantly, so with that hot air rising, starting to catch thermals in search of their next meal. But just come to see if we couldn't find a pride of lions nearby, often encouraging signs that lions have been successful with a hunt. And they'll be one of the first to suss that out from a dizzy height and come and investigate, or at least perch nearby and wait for a gap to go and feed. If lions give it up early or take a break from eating, And just stopping to listen, if that was the case, you often can sometimes hear lions, depending on how much meat is left, they'll growl at each other and react to one another when there's just scraps left, and that can be one of the ways in which we can then find those lions. But while we've been sitting here, it's been very quiet, just a lot of birds. The rattling testicular, as always. There's a black-crowned chagre calling in the background. Somber greenbills, but yeah, these white-backed vultures all slowly starting to come to life. They could very well have been perched there overnight and will take to the skies sometime soon, I can imagine. But also just keep listening out for a growl or anything that might let us know if there are predators in the area. Huge birds. If you have a look at their talons gripping onto those branches, they are massive and very vigilant birds, those. All of them constantly just scanning around. A little bit of preening going on there, maybe their pre-flight routine, flight checks before they take to the skies. Massive bills, a very, very sharp bill that's able to tear flesh off of bones. And they are loud, but huge birds. With the wingspan there, a bit of ruffle of the feathers. I think that one's going to take to the skies. But maybe prove me wrong. Yeah, huge wingspans that, in flocks of them together, if there is something large like maybe a giraffe that's died or been caught, will circle up above. And yeah, it can be a huge aid for us to find predators. But this lot this morning, I think just waiting for it to warm up a little bit more. Peter, you're asking if vultures ever hunt for themselves. I've personally never seen vultures hunting for themselves. Only ever opportune scavengers that they are, feeding off carcasses and the likes. So I think the honest answer to your question is no, they don't. But, maybe if there's potentially something that's wounded or something that, for whatever reason, is not quite dead but injured, be it an impala lamb or, whatever the case may be, then potentially. But no, I've only ever seen them scavenge from carcasses of other animals. Been relatively quiet this morning on this reserve in terms of cats. Everyone's been searching high and low for them, but with no such luck. And maybe yesterday was a slightly windier afternoon. Maybe this lot just find themselves on these perches because it was as windy as it was. Obviously, then they make flying look completely effortless when there is a bit of a breeze. But being so close to the coast, what little bit of a breeze we have now will probably pick up a little bit later this afternoon, and perhaps just waiting that to make flying a little bit easier for them. I think what I might do is carry on searching this morning. A little bit of cloud cover, fairly heavy looking clouds. Doesn't look like it's going to rain anytime soon, maybe later on this afternoon. You see there in the distance a couple of those standout trees that cats might use to scan, but we're going to head across to Yapi, who's with that male lion.
So it certainly looks like he's had something to eat. Actually, it looks like he's had quite a bit to eat. And you can see by that extreme disinterested expression on his face that he is quite lethargic and quite full, quite content actually. I think this weather is also making him a bit sleepy. I'm sure his head's going to start dipping now. Now, I've often noticed when lions do sit up like this, or when they look around, you often find, especially males, that they lick their lips quite often, or their teeth. Now, part of their process of controlling parasites is to groom themselves. They've got a very rough tongue, almost sandpaper-like. And when this lion was grooming himself earlier, probably quite a few hairs from his coat that got stuck in between his teeth. What I find most amazing about him is that I've had a better look now. He's close to the den side, but he's not there. So wherever he came from and whatever he ate or stole from others, he made it all the way into the riverbed. And that was like a waypoint. And now he's decided that's perfectly fine, I'm close enough, I can see. I might as well just lay here. And once he starts digesting, those energy levels just drop. All of it goes into digesting its food. You can see his face is covered with scars all over, especially the area on the bridge of the nose, around the eyes, the cheeks. He's still very much aware in the direction that he's looking in. It's almost as if he's trying to convince himself that he needs to move up that side. But it's just so good here in the riverbed. Now, all of those scars, each one tells a story. And with this lion, it would be a very interesting story, I'm sure. But it's often that I hear when lions go around, they move about, they do encounter other lions. And even though we don't see that often, we know that it happens. And during these bouts, you often have fights. The scars on these cats' faces are often not actually from fights with other lions, but more from fighting around carcasses and food. But while this lion lays down, I think we'll send you over to Lauren.
Now, we haven't had much luck in terms of finding animals. We do have some impala, but it's more the view I want to show you. We're up on First Rock on Torchwood, one of the most stunning places. And you can see right east to the KMP boundary, south across Chitwa and Cheetah Plains, west to Djuma. You're really, really high up here and you can just see everything. This is where Tandy's son spends most of his time, on First Rock. Djuma doesn't have any rock face like this, and it's just sometimes nice to admire the scenery. And it's lush now, and winter is barren. And because of the sort of topography, the rock surface, there's lots of natural little areas where water can gather. So there's all sorts of puddles here. And although it's completely open and visible, a lot of animals use this. And I'm not just talking about impala, but you'll find leopards lounging on the rock, in particularly Tandy and Son. You'll find lions. Lions love to lounge across the rocks. It's a good place to check. It's just really, really beautiful. The dogs were here the other day on the rocks. Many of you are seeing as such a beautiful view, isn't it? Dovey will work his magic and let you see. And you can also just get out your binos and just sit and try and see if you can see any spotty bodies in trees, or vultures hanging around, or alarmed looking herbivores. None of which I see right now, but it gives you that option. You're really high up looking down on everything. And it also shows you just how lush the environment is here right now. It's so green. We just wanted to show you that beautiful view. But we are going to possibly cruise out of Torchwood now and head back towards Djuma. And we're going to send you guys across to some very stripy animals at Phinda.
Welcome back, everybody, to Phinda, where we've come up to one of the old airstrips. And often animals like zebra that you see in your picture, and impala. There was an impala in the mix here as well. There's now hidden behind the zebra. Come out just because it's a lovely open spot for them to see predators coming from a distance. Obviously good grazing as well for them. This stallion that you see here at the back was giving that mare a bit of a hard time, the one with the foal right in front of it. She's obviously not quite ready to mate just yet, but he was trying his luck with no success. And she gave him a good few kicks to the chest, which by the sounds of things sounded really painful, but he's now, I think, with a little bit of a bruised ego, standing a little bit further behind them. They're all watching a wildebeest who's running up to join them, and in between this lot is quite a big crash of white rhino who you see moving in the distance behind them. 1, 2, 3, 4, potentially even a fifth rhino there, out all with their heads down, busy feeding. And lovely to see so many of them together, all different tones of grey and black. They probably maybe last night sometime found a bit of a mud wallow to go and cake themselves in mud. Try to cool them down. Yesterday was quite a hot afternoon. Try to cool themselves down. And now that that's dried up a bit, they might go and rub against a tree or a stump or the like to help get rid of ticks and parasites that the red-billed oxpeckers otherwise can't. But lovely scenes out here. The little bit of cloud cover that you saw earlier is providing us with some much needed shade. It for almost 8 o'clock this morning is particularly warm, and that's when animals will start maybe venturing off to the thicker areas that have a little bit more shade. That little bit of a breeze I spoke about is starting to pick up now, which also will help them stay cool. And I wonder if we won't get a little bit of rain later on this afternoon. Beautiful area this, with those standout marulas that you see in the background. A couple of happy zebra, that young foal next to mom, suckling at the moment. But such lovely scenes, and so nice to see all of them together. Absolutely, everyone just commenting on what a beautiful scene this is. It really is magic. It's almost something out of East Africa, with those standout marula trees that you would, maybe not marula trees themselves, but those acacias that you get out in East Africa, the ones on their own that Giraffe do a very neat job of trimming underneath of them, that browse line that you get from them. Out in the open, those big open skies, much the same as here today, and every so often those marula trees being illuminated by the sun this morning, which is absolutely stunning scenes from Phinda. Really are spoiled. Territorial wildebeest bull in the mix as well, making a cameo appearance. Didn't want to get left behind by its friends, so you saw him running up towards him earlier. Rhino moving off in the distance, maybe venturing down to a lower lying area or a drainage line that's also a little bit cooler for them to rest for the heat of the day. And a really happy herd of zebra. You see them all wagging their tails, busy grazing at the moment. And Impala also not far. And important for them to sometimes stick together like that. More eyes to scan for predators, the better. Obviously more ears to listen out as well. And just looking off in the distance on the right on the horizon, there's a vulture that's just taken to the skies. I wouldn't be surprised if it was one of the ones that we saw earlier, starting to now catch thermals and head higher into the skies above, looking for its next potential meal. Soaring from up above. So if you're asking if a white rhino can mate with a black rhino, white and black rhino are two different species of rhino, and I can imagine white rhino being a lot heavier than black rhino. If they tried, they could probably break the back of a black rhino. So no, they might try, but a black rhino is not going to let that happen. I don't think so. No, they will not mate with black rhino. There are two different species of rhino. And just the weight difference there. A big bull can weigh 2.5 tons, and a black rhino maybe up to about 1.5 tons. So not something that I think we'd ever see. Still very quiet with everyone out and about this morning. No signs of those cheetah, and even those lions in this area haven't been found for a while. But maybe more active in the wee early hours of the morning when it starts to get light at around 4:30. And then by this stage they'll be fast asleep elsewhere on the reserve where it's a little bit cooler. Now you can actually see that vultures come into picture in between those two marilla trees. And this is genuinely scenes that you'd see in East Africa. For as far as the eye can see, just those wide open expanses with those massive skies. And the Olololo escarpment that things will venture up into in the night to sleep and then come back down the next day when it starts to get light as well. And just looking behind this herd of zebra and the impala and wildebeest, those rhino have changed direction. They're starting to head back up now, doing a very neat job of mowing the lawn. Very consistent sort of pattern that they're following. They've gone down, all lined up, and now they've turned back and around to mow it the other way. Everything now, as it starts to warm up, seems to slow down quite a bit. Those zebra all have their heads up, no longer grazing. Just the impala having the odd bite to eat there behind them. And I'm not sure if you've ever seen when zebra will stand next to one another facing the opposite ways, but rest their heads on each other's backs. I think the most I've seen is 4 of them doing that when they almost stood in a square and rested their heads on each other's backs. But one of the ways to rest during the day that you might find them doing eventually this lot. But for now also maybe just enjoying the sunshine and the view from where they are. Not a bad spot up here for us to look for something like a black-bellied bustard. Megan, you commenting on how nice the variety of different species is this morning. Have a look at this wildebeest as well. But Megan, you're not wrong. We really are spoiled with the variety of animals here altogether. Sometimes when the stars align for you, they align really nicely, and you get scenes like this which are priceless, I'd say, with all of them out in the open like this. Other days you can drive around here and search high and low and you can literally come across nothing. So really, really nice scenes this morning. That wildebeest is as content. It scratched the ground a little bit before it lay down, maybe trying to expose cooler soil below before it lay down, and has now found its comfy spot for the morning. Gizmo, you ask what type of predator will try to take down a rhino. If anything, and I've seen it, hyena. If there's a cow and a calf with a relatively young calf, hyena will try their luck and sort of hound that mom and its calf to try and tire them out. But you know, being such big creatures, they can do some serious damage to hyena if they catch them. Quite a bit of weight behind them as well. 2.5 tons can do some serious damage to something like a hyena. Otherwise, I've never seen it, but lions potentially, they know rhino can do some serious damage, so maybe young lions might try their luck and see what rhinos are all about. But yeah, they don't really have any natural predators. Maybe on the off chance, like I said, hyena, if anything. A whole heap of activity off to our right hand side. You might be able to hear them with those glossy starlings. Yeah, I can't see at the moment. Them and fork-tailed drongos that are going berserk. I don't know if you might... Oh, there they fly off. But you can hear the unmistakable sound off to our right of those two fork-tailed drongos. There's a European roller that's also landed. It's just taken off behind the zebra. That foal that we saw earlier is now flat on its back, also having a rest after its morning drink. You often come across scenes like this and you think that something's wrong, but that little zebra foal, happy as Larry, lying down where it is, just resting like that. And that if there was to tell a sign of there not being any predators around, would be exactly that. These really content animals lying down now as well. But yeah, it's really warm, so I don't think any lions will be about now. Cheetah, much the same, just too hot for them to be hunting. But not a bad time for, if a cheetah mom had youngsters, to move during the day now when all the other predators are fast asleep. There in the background makes, well, the rhino coming into picture now. There's a young calf there who was bolting around just now as well. Maybe we see a little bit more activity from him. Chaz, you asking how we tell the difference between male and female zebra? What's quite nice now is that one just next to the foal, unless it's got a foal, which is the obvious sign of them being male or female, the one that's just shrugged off that. Oh, have a look there in the background. Those rhino are busy mating, and it's a cow with a calf, which is really interesting because you often see them with other generations of calf. But to see that, and we were just asked the questions of rhino mating, is unbelievable. You don't see that often at all. You might see cows with calves that look heavily pregnant, and even they'll have calves from a previous generation, so two of their calves with them, and distinct different ages, really young and sometimes a little bit older, 3-4 years old, that are together. And then that little crash of rhino in the background, maybe one or two satellite calves, but that, obviously a bull that tried mounting that female now, and in hot pursuit, maybe she's just not ready to mate, as she's still got that youngster who's still suckling, and she's got to look after that. You can see he's got his tail curled up right behind that female. Unbelievable. And both the two at the back, and they might both be bulls that are following that cow and calf with their tails curled up. You see that in your picture. And she might have defecated or urinated there, and they smelt that and have seen, maybe she is showing signs that she's back in estrus. That one on the left now, scent mark, you can see him scraping, defecating and scraping his legs in that, and he's obviously going to carry that scent with him as he goes far and wide. But the three of them now all lying in a row, and that fifth one also tail curled up in hot pursuit of the other four. That one right at the back got a couple of oxpeckers on its back. Might have been the ones that we saw that zebra shrug off a short while back. But all three males that are following have their tails curled up, and like I was saying just now, can be a sign of them in stress. But for them now, maybe they've smelled something of interest and have seen. Let's see that male again. He's got his head on her back, there. He's trying again to mount that female. He's definitely doing something wrong there, because he's maybe now shuffling around, but he was almost across her back in the wrong direction. He's now turned around to usher that other one away. Listen to that. Here's pinned back, not happy with that other bull that's just behind. He too also now defecating. Jeez, and now two of them going at it. Maybe the one that you saw now bringing up the rear behind that one is more dominant. Well, clearly he won that little jostle, but I doubt that will be the one and only round that they go for if they are trying to establish who the more dominant of the two is. But there's three of them, so they now could get distracted. She could walk away with her calf while the two of them see who the stronger and the more dominant is. And all slowly moving off. Yeah, now that we don't have the cloud cover that we had, it is starting to warm up quite a bit, and I think the 5 of them are going to disappear down into that thicker area off to our right hand side. I'm not going to put any pressure on them and try and drive up to them. I'd rather leave them be. You can see them running away from us, so we'll leave them be, and we'll see if we can't, maybe for the last little bit, hopefully find one of the cats.
We are almost about to arrive to Buffelshoek Dam to see what's going on around the dam. There's always something happening at this dam now. It's one of our larger dams, in Djuma at least, not in all the other properties that we traverse. But there's always something to look at. Maybe we should position here. Now this tree, hold on now, I just want to take a look at what bird that is. Oh, it's another Deirdre's cuckoo. You see it, it's just landed. Actually, I'm gonna go forward for you. On this vegetation here, right at the top, on the right, this has flown away. Okay. How lovely. We don't get to see them stationary much. Now this tree used to stand nice and tall. It's only recently fallen over. So you can see it's no longer alive, but what it's turned into is a habitat and an area that can be used by other species. So it's been used by the weavers. They're still hanging their nests from it. It doesn't matter that it's not standing upright anymore. I imagine lots of little organisms will now sort of make their own little habitat in the trunk. Most of the nutrients have probably gone back into the soil. So it's sad that it's fallen over. I don't think it's alive in any way, but it's transformed into so many other things. It's been utilized in so many other ways. So I think we're just going to sit a little bit longer here and admire all the sounds of the dam.
So cool here, what we find, we got a very much interesting fact about this now, elephant defecation. That's what you see here. I know we saw elephants feeding on marula this morning, and this is what happened after they have eaten them. So most of these fruits have just come out as it is. Some of them have been crunched a little bit. As you can see, they peeled off of the skin of that fruit. but many of them just come as it is. So this it means probably those are the one that actually haven't been attached to any of a mollus's tooth to be chewed. And the soil as well, and the surface there, I think these are dung beetles have involved in here. But they already maybe roll their balls and then dig underneath themselves, bury themselves. A lot of a tiny insect that is actually moving around in its elephant dung over here. And all you see is all piece of grasses and less fawns, which this time of year they focus on feeding grasses and branches, leaves of trees. Yeah, so you're asking if it's true that elephants produce amount of dung. Yes, indeed, it is true. So, a larger mammal, and defecation for such a big as this elephant is anything from 8 kilogram upwards sometimes. And yeah, that's a huge amount. And it's so lucky this time where when they produce that amount of defecation like that, and there's still a lot of available food for them to eat, and then they will replace that element, the space that is actually now free in their tummy. But now we're in the winter, takes a lot of hours to replace that space if it's a lack of shortage of grasses. So we see all sandy now there has been disturbed. It looks like all the current. So you're asking if the dung beetles only go for the elephant dung? No, they go for any of the dungs. Lion dung, any defecations, humans, scat, and that. So they consume on everything they can. But so that now, this time of year, elephant dung and this buffalo dung, it comes plenty, and that's why they're a lot visited by the a lot of the dung beetles. So now you see the sand it looks like a little bit disturbed every now and then. It's because that some of the dung beetles, they trying to probably bury their dung under that whole pallet of dung that you see there. See all the sand shifting. So the dung beetle will bury themselves. Some, they will roll their balls away and bury them underneath the soil. And they lie single eggs in there. So we're going to move on. We failed to actually get to the lines. It's actually very much thick, deep into a river. I'm going to be sending you across to another line.
Now, this lion has basically the only movement he's made is just to roll around and face a different direction. And his eyes are open. And I think well, now it's closed again. But I think the heat's starting to have an effect. Where he only rolled around every now and again. He's starting to roll around a little bit more, and I think in not too long he's probably going to start feeling the heat and has to get up and move out of this open riverbed and go look for some proper shade. And how's that? Think about laying down with your mouth in coarse river sand, the flies buzzing around you. Every now and again there's a slight breeze coming through, and I think that is why he's still laying down and what's keeping it cool enough for him to stay within the riverbed. And these overcast days, they aren't exactly cool all day. Towards late morning, middle of the day, it gets quite humid. And that often prompts animals like the cats to move about. And this is quite an interesting lion. He is a member of the lion pride that often, I've seen him a couple of times before, he'll stay within the same area for a couple of days. And he's also the one that we used to see with the pride more regularly than his brother. But as of late, I've actually noticed his brother with the pride and the cubs more than this one. Although, now the lioness with the new cubs is nearby, and he is the one here. Initially, Kate, this lion will sleep for probably most of the day. Exactly how long is difficult to say, but I'm sure he'll spend at least another hour where he is, and then he might just move for a few minutes to a new spot with more shade, in which case he'll lay down and sleep up until tonight when it's dark again. With his belly as full as it is, that might be as much as 20 hours or more. Now, sleep is quite a quite a loose term to use because even though he's laying down, he's definitely resting. You can see very shallow breathing with this lion at the moment. I can see part of his belly just heaving up and down. Maybe he has fallen into a relatively deep sleep. But I think we'll give him a little while longer to see if he might decide to move. In the meantime, we'll send you over to Lauren with dragonflies.
I can't believe it, everyone. My favorite insects landed on my car. I can't believe it. I'm trying not to move a single muscle. Davy is also not moving. Look at this dragonfly. I can't even see my monitor because of the angle I've positioned myself at, and I'm too scared to move. But I can see his head moving from side to side. Trying to figure out, what is this? This thing. Wow, we've been swarmed with them. I was off the vehicle and there must have been about, 30 dragonflies, Davy? They were all swarming around me. We're trying to think how to get it on camera for you all, but they're moving so fast. And then this one comes and lands on the car. It's moving its mouth parts. You see all 6 legs, the segmented body. But I don't know what it's doing. They catch their prey in the air. So maybe it's just cleaning. They're very hygienic animals. They do clean themselves a lot. Isn't that so cool that it's landed on the car? Oh, Davy said it's just caught something, so it has. Sorry, I'm moving my body ever so slowly so that I can see my monitor. What did it catch, Dav?
It might be a flying ant.
Wow. Davy said they're following me like I'm their queen. I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but I'll take it as one. I just don't know how anyone couldn't appreciate these insects. They're so remarkable. Is it flies?
It's an alate.
Alates. Davy thinks it's eating alates. I mean, they look gorgeous to us, or at least to me, but they're ferocious. They're ferocious hunters, predators. Apex predators of the insect world. Come back. At least we're giving you lovely views of our bonnet. It's eating again. Dragonflies used to grow up to just under a meter. Can you imagine that? Looking up in the skies and not only seeing, beautiful blue skies, but seeing dragonflies 75 centimeters long. I think then we maybe would be scared of them. Insects have got smaller over the years. Almost looks like they're wearing those big ski goggles that cover your entire face. Now, if you look at damselflies, they'll have a gap in between their eyes, and it will be very obvious that there's 2 separate eyes. Here, it's not that obvious. There are 2 separate eyes, compound eyes, unique, specialized eyes, but there's definitely 2 of them adjoining in the middle. In damselflies, they'll be completely separate with a gap in the middle. You'll be able to identify two separate eyes. Look at its little segmented legs. They've got a bend almost, if you like, at the knee. It's not a knee, but I'm just making a similarity. And then there's another sort of ankle bend. And then there's a little foot with claspers, if you like. They're able to really cling onto whatever they're standing on. Three very obvious parts of the body. Insects can get quite complicated, but if you want to simplify it, you've got the head, the sensory center. They do have brains. We went into that yesterday. There's no way this insect could navigate, hunt with remarkable accuracy and not have a brain to process it all. That could not solely be done on just sensory organs. And then it has the transport center. All the legs and the four wings are all attached to the one part of the body. It's a very muscular part of the body, and it contains all the muscles necessary to move the legs and move the wings independently. This is your thorax, aka the transport center. Then that long part of the body that you can see just at the back there, that's the abdomen. That contains the entire digestive system and the reproductive system of that organism. So that's a really easy way to simplify it. Head, sensory. Thorax, transport. Abdomen, generative. Wow. I'm going home now. That was the best sighting ever. I've been waiting for a dragonfly to land on my car for months now, and it happened. Can I go home now, Jared? Mission complete. Come back now. Land on the car. It's probably never going to happen ever again. I don't think Jared's going to let me go home. So in that, I will continue bumbling and see what else I can find.
My name is Taylor McCurdy, and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on WildEarth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
Join our Explorers program so we can keep on sharing nature with the world. For a monthly subscription, you will have the opportunity to win fantastic WildEarth expeditions, have access to an animal identification app, receive weekly highlights from our shows, and much more. All the money will go to keeping these live safaris on air, which in turn connects a global population with nature.
Hello everyone, my name is Trishala and I am a naturalist and safari guide here in Djuma Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands in South Africa. I think that the information that we provide, and most importantly the questions that you ask, give both you and I a really good idea of what's going on. My friend Fernando here, he's a flat-necked chameleon and I love them. They're just these gems that you manage to find in the bush.
Catch up with the guides daily here on WildEarth. Have you been watching WildEarth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. WildEarth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live WildEarth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
One of these things that one's able to do very well when you have a sleeping cat like this is you can look at the physical features of the animal quite carefully. And in this case, this lion is quite unique. Now, we can see a clear distinction between a darker part of the mane
below the head, which is on the chest, and it often extends to the mane running down the neck onto the back as well. And normally those are the parts that with an older male lion like this one would be quite dark, in fact almost black. But with this particular male, it's quite light. Now, why exactly that would be, I'm not 100% sure. But we do know that this male and his brother both carry a recessive gene of white lions, or that have the capability to give birth to offspring that is leucistic or white. And this one is quite light and pale overall. In fact, if we have to distinguish between him and his brother, we usually refer to him as the lighter one. And he's also not very big for a male lion. Now, we have in the past seen other male lions, or other lions in general, even females in this area, that have a much paler color overall than their siblings. See, the wind's changed a little bit now, going from behind his head, and his eyes are twitching. Look at that look. Peter, that's a good question. I have never seen a melanistic lion, but whether they do exist, I know that there were reports in the past of melanistic lions, but I have never seen a physical record of this before. What I have noticed is that mostly when it gets to tigers and lions, they tend to be leucistic more than melanistic. Although I've recently seen a photo of a near melanistic tiger taken somewhere in India. But lions, tigers, they tend to be leucistic. And then when you go to leopard, jaguar, even the American mountain lion, they tend to be melanistic, which just means that the cells in the skin producing melanin produces an over amount, and the animal turns to be almost black in color, where the recessive gene in the lion and tiger tends to have no melanin in the skin, and therefore the fur is white. Imagine that, a black lion. That would be a sight to see. There we go. I think that might be prompted by the wind to pick up his head. Have a look, that's pretty amazing. Immediately this animal is alert. He's looking in a direction where either he might have heard something, see the ears was facing that way, and he's just scanning the banks of the Timbavati to see if there's any movement, and whether that be for any other animals coming down, or whether it be prey or large animals that might potentially disturb his sleep, or maybe he's just checking for other members of the pride that might be nearby that we're not aware of. Maybe it's part of his male lion duty. And a deep sigh. Maybe he's just checking if the coast is clear before we can lay back down. And that's about
as much action as we've got from him the last almost hour now. The way he's laying now, we can see some scars on his face. You can see the area around his mouth where the fur is starting to disappear. You can't help but wonder where this lion has been, what he's eaten from, or where he ate. Jerome, why don't other big cats have manes? That's a good question. I do not know the answer to that. I think it's also a question that is quite difficult to answer. Like all of the big cats have their differences between male and female, which is usually size. I know with the leopard it's got a dewlap, which is a flap of skin that forms under the or around the throat area as the animal gets older. With tigers, I know some male tigers, especially in the Siberian tiger, the older male tigers tend to have what looks somewhat like a mane, but not nearly the same as the lion. Now, there are quite a few theories on why they have manes. Some reckon it's for protection when they fight. But also they have done studies which proved that the mane definitely plays a big role in sexual attraction. And generally the rule of thumb is the male with the darker mane is the more sought after male by females. Maybe it might be an indication of higher levels of testosterone, and therefore it might be the stronger animal. But it is interesting also that the lion is quite if you think about most of the other big cats, other than the mountain lion, the African lion tends to be quite dull in color. A uniform tawny colored, which more than likely evolved for it to perfectly fit in within its environment and used as camouflage, especially for an animal that hunts using stealth and strength. It needs to get close to its prey, and therefore the animal needs to blend in. Now, with a case like the lion, that might be because this is the way that they do develop to have some feature that would be an attraction to females or the opposite sex. Maybe it's also in part for communication to some extent. I think whatever the reason, it must be quite uncomfortable on a hot African day in the African savannah to have such a thick coat of hair around the neck and the head. And I know as they grow older, you often find that some of the mane gets plucked out as they move through the thick bush, and as the condition of the skin changes as the animal gets older, some lions do lose a bit of their mane. But also for the male lion, the mane grows until the older it gets, the darker the mane grows. I've often watched
other smaller creatures, millipedes on occasions, they all move within that fur. I can imagine it must be quite full of ticks, especially after the rains we've had the last couple of days. Moving through the tall grasses, an animal must have quite a lot of ticks and things moving in or being stuck in that thick hair. I can imagine it must be quite itchy at certain points. And then also it's funny to watch them at certain points when you see them. Their mane's also in a different condition. Sometimes it looks like they literally went through a wash and it was blow dried, and other times it's quite dirty and it looks quite shaggy. But the way the animal's stretched out now, there's a little bit of a breeze going, which is one of the benefits of laying down in the riverbed. But we were hoping that he might move, and maybe he might still. But I think for now we'll send you over to Lauren.
We do have a giraffe here, I promise. It's just very, very busy feeding. Young male, I think. Bald on the ossicones, and we got a little bit of a view of the body, and he's small. Hello. Very thick ossicones, doesn't he? Very thick and very straight. Oh, it must taste delicious. You see that black tongue, that long black tongue. We go through the seasonal changes in giraffe populations out here. They're not territorial. And sometimes we have sort of periods of really high numbers of giraffes, almost excessive numbers. This sort of starts in spring, and sometimes we have periods where really... Oh, I'm sorry, I'm very distracted. Apparently Tungana's not too far away. Just had that update, which is why I can't concentrate on you. Shall we try and make it? We don't have a lot of time. Let's do it. It's Tungana after all. Bye, giraffe. We're really, really not far away. I know we only have about 30 odd minutes left. So let's see if we can go and get some visuals. So that meant Ngala came back over from Simbambili yesterday, must have headed east into Djuma to watch out for all the dung piles. But I will have to get on the radio though in order to call myself in. But I just received that message that he's here. Sorry, Davy, from all the bumps and the dung piles, this is not going to be smooth. I think we'll make it. It's really not far away. We had a brief view of him yesterday, and then I believe Davy and Andrew had him on Simbambili. We're seeing Tingana a lot more than we did for a while. We went months without seeing our Duke. Everyone was worried, but I can assure you he is in peak physical condition. Yes, he's older, but that boy is not losing condition. He's looking great. So yeah, we saw him yesterday on Simbambili, and he's obviously came back east on to Djuma. Okay, hold on, Darby. The rain has actually done quite a lot of damage to the roads once again. A lot of them are in need of repair. How long do I have left, FC? Will I make this? Yes, I'll make it. We're still quite a bit way out, and I do need to get onto the radio, but we'll definitely make it. We'll definitely be able to get Tingana for you. Okay, I wonder just how big Yapi's lion is, but we're going to send you over to him.
Finally, he's picked up his head, but you can see he's still struggling with the inherited laziness of being a male lion. And the weather. And weather has a huge effect on animals' behavior from what I've experienced. And in his case, he is quite comfortable where he is. He is quite full. You can see there's some flies bothering him, and that's why his lips twitching every now and again. But it's also getting so warm to the point now where he realizes he has to move. And the direction that he's looking in is towards where the den site is. And I am really hoping that we might be lucky enough to see him get up and move in that direction. He's also turned his head over to that side, right into the direction of where the wind's coming from. Although they're not often credited for it, they do actually have quite a good sense of smell. You can see now that he's picked up his head, his breathing is a little bit more labored. There's a yawn. You can see that missing top left canine. And there we go. Licking his paws or grooming himself. And have a look, you can see those claws are a little bit stretched out. And there's tufts of hair where the claws are hidden behind. Another yawn. I'm hoping that these are good signs that he might get up. Maggie, I have not experienced the lion licking my skin, but if I think the size comparison between my pet cat and this lion, I'm pretty sure that he will be able to lick your skin off if he keeps licking. They've got a very, very rough tongue, and they do often lick bones to get the last pieces of meat off it, and also the skin of their prey to soften it. You take off some fur with that and soften the skin before they tear it open. And I'm sure for something as sensitive as human skin, it would be quite possible. But then again, I don't think it's a experience that I would like to have myself. I have read stories and old books about lions attacking people where you do hear the stories of the lion licking their skin off. I'm yawning more and more now. You can see he's hot. I'm rubbing the side of his face where he lay down in the sand. He is a beautiful lion, that's for sure. I do agree with our viewers. Out of the two, between him and his brother, he's definitely the one with a prettier face. I saw earlier there's some fur off there on that side of his cheek, so it must be a little bit itchy, and it's almost as if he's covering his front paw with saliva and then rubbing it over that part of the cheek. And after that, he's sure going to have a lot of fur stuck in his tongue. Maria, would a male lion ever protect his cubs like a lioness would? Certainly. In fact, if something approaches the lion while he is with the lioness and the cubs, he would do everything in his power to seem as threatening as possible to ward off the danger or potential danger. And whether that be us encountering them on foot or other animals coming nearby, he will certainly act aggressive. And if there are other males or other lions coming into the area that's not related and pose a danger to his cubs, he'll definitely protect them. Just like the lioness would. But then again, also, at some points, the lioness has to protect the cubs against the male lions. They're not very sharing around carcasses or around kills. And when that happens, their instincts take over, and they often don't even really consider the safety of their own offspring too much, especially not if they're really small. Which is why lionesses often take a while before they introduce the cubs properly to the rest of the pride, or once they start eating meat at around 2.5 to 3 months. That's usually quite a delicate stage, because she runs the risk of endangering them from their own pride members or their own family. And that's why we haven't really seen these lion cubs yet. And they're still too small at this stage. Now there is the odd occasion where they might, by some miracle, happen to be finding themselves in and around a feeding frenzy and probably don't even realize the danger that they're in. And he's looking around quite a lot at this point, and generally in the direction where he knows the den is. So I think
There we go. So I think we might follow him, and hopefully he takes us towards the den. In the meantime, we're gonna send you over to Lauren with her started surprise.
Wow, I was letting that speak for itself, but here we are looking at the eyes of the Duke. Eyes that have probably seen more than we could ever imagine. The Duke of Djuma, still in his prime. That's probably all we're going to get to see. Look how nestled into the thicket he is. Now, if he wasn't standing up or sitting up, you would never see him. Look at that. Can you see that there's a leopard there? No. He's very, very well camouflaged. He's on Gallagher Shortcut. I know some of you like to know the locations. And he's on Gallagher Shortcut fairly regularly now. I wonder if he's not territorial, but he's just a creature of habit. He likes to use the same roads. So he can come in from the west, from Simbambili, cut through Djuma, and head to Bufosuk. And he has got a bit of a stiff hip, and a lot of people say he's losing condition. He's absolutely not. I remember one of the main things Jamie taught me when we first came here. An animal, especially a predator, cannot afford to lose condition. The minute they start to lose condition, it's game over. He won't sort of survive being in poor condition. Yes, he might get weak or he might get sick, but losing condition, as soon as he loses condition, he won't survive. You can't sort of roam the landscape here, navigate the landscape in poor condition. But yes, he's older. He's maybe got a stiff hip. He's maybe a bit stiff in different joints, to be honest. But overall, he is looking good. Rex and struggling to seal. That is what you call flat cat. Pancake style. But at least we've got him and he's on Djuma. Andrew actually found him. I'm going to give all the credit to Andrew. But unfortunately, they have had a little hiccup with their antenna. It's actually maybe not a hiccup. The antenna has snapped. Possibly a little bit more than a hiccup. And I'm sure Marcel is going to do wonders this afternoon to fix that. Now, to be territorial, as I sort of mention a lot and touch on a lot, it takes a lot of energy, a lot of effort. So if Tingana's not, if he really is nomadic now, if he's classified as nomadic, it's not a bad thing, it's not a negative thing, it's ideal. He's saving his energy for other things. He knows the landscape, he knows this area better than any of us here. He knows who his enemies are. He knows what threats are around. He knows when to fight. He knows when to flee. He knows what prey is the easiest to take. He knows he can steal from his daughter. He has all this knowledge. So if he has switched to being a more nomadic male, maybe it just makes sense. Maybe Mowati came in and he thought, ugh, I can't be bothered with another youngster causing trouble in my town. I can't be bothered. Mowati's big. I'm just going to let him have it. And he still navigates, he still hunts, he still scavenges, he's still a huge male leopard. But he doesn't need to spend energy being socially dominant, being selfishly claiming resources. He just takes what he wants when he wants. It's not a bad thing, it's just a switch in lifestyle. And maybe that sort of saving in energy, his little savings account, is actually what's helping him thrive. Because if he was to spend all his energy on patrols and calling and scent marking and, you know, warning off intruders, then maybe he wouldn't be looking at his fitness. Maybe he wouldn't be sort of thriving as much. He would be running into energy deficit. I think it's a great move. It's a very smart move to play. Are you thrilled with the visuals of Tingana here, Davi? Showreel worthy, yes. I agree. But I hear you're all happy to see him. Or you're all happy to see his 11 spots? No, I'm only teasing. I am also thrilled to see him. We saw him yesterday and it was so unfortunate we didn't get it live. And he was just a Simbambili dam walking along. Hukamuri's normally on Simbambili. But with Tingana and Hook, they know each other. They 100% know each other. They'll recognize each other's scent. They know each other's chemical codes. They've been seen in sightings together, feeding together. It doesn't mean they necessarily like one another, but they absolutely are aware of one another. Tingana knows that Hook is the one that pushes from the west.
Take it back and meet her.
Jaffy's requesting go back. Is that stick annoying you? Yes. There's always a stick. Oh, now there's some grass. But that's much better. I'd love to see an interaction with Tingana and Tlalamba again. I really would. They're quite common. Daddy-daughter. And actually, if you think about it, in Zucchini, who we saw yesterday on Simbambili, that beautiful, gorgeous leopardess, she is Tingana's granddaughter. But it leaves excellent opportunity for the afternoon if he's here on Djuma. Now, obviously, a bigger kill is far more beneficial for a leopard. And down he goes. But don't forget, just because they hunt big impala and they hoist them, that's not their only survival strategy. Tingana could easily feast on 5 scrub hares a night, and that would sustain him. We were talking earlier about tortoises. All sorts of things are available for snacking on in summer. Even land snails, there you go. Excluding the shell, you've got a big slab of protein right there. Just because we don't see him on kills with impala does not mean he's not eating well. There's other vehicles here. I have no idea how they are going to see this cat. Look, 100%, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Although Tingana's known to flee, his sort of response is just to flee, get out of the situation. Hukamuri has a bit more of a reputation to fight. But all in all, they will avoid physical conflict. They're solitary animals. They cannot afford to get hurt. They can't afford to get injured. It's not going to benefit them. One serious injury and they're out the game. They wouldn't be able to survive. So they do avoid physical contact, but they absolutely will fight. And Hukamuri's sort of standoff with Mulwati that Steve and Tristan managed to get on camera was fantastic, because you could see 2 huge dominant male leopards clashing over a female, Shudulu, but not fighting, refusing to fight and just going through a lot of lateral presentation, a lot of calling, and a lot of chasing. But from what we could see, there was no physical altercation, at least at that time. They will try to avoid it. But Yes, they'll fight, absolutely. Most males in the animal kingdom will. Okay. We'll try and get some better views of our Duke here for you. And we're going to stay here until the end of drive.
And we are looking for him to be walking towards where we hope he was going to walk to, which is the den site. And it's a casual, slow walk, stopping every now and again to sniff. He's on a trail of the lioness. And how gracious is this animal moving like this? I might go up the bank at any point, because I suspect that she's keeping the cubs in one of these shrubs straight up ahead towards where he's going now. Once he moves in there, I do not know if we'll be able to get another view of him.
A little bit of a better visual for you all. Even from this angle, you can still see that teddy bear appearance, that look that he's going for. And when we actually spotted Tungana yesterday at Simbambili Dam, it was far away. We just saw a leopard walking in the road and you don't immediately know who it is. Of course, straight away you can identify male. Oh, hello. That was a turn up for the books. There's a termite mound in front of us. I do wonder if he's going to walk up there. And this mound we find Tungana on all the time. He's a creature of habit. Always on this mound. I wonder if he's going to walk up now. And that's heading in the right direction. And going back to the sort of nomadic conversation that I was having, male leopards for territorial patrol or any territorial activities actually account for 26% of their daily caloric intake. 26%. So let's just say a quarter. What's he doing? He's putting his head in some sort of hole. Oh my goodness, he's disappearing into a portal. That's where the leopards go. I think something's in there. What a wonderful view of our Duke to end the show on. Now, that's a little bit better. Don't want to be looking at your bottom, young man. And what a drive it turned out to be, big thanks to Andrew. And all the little things in between, and of course all the other live locations, meeting rhinos and Ngala's big male lion. So we're going to leave the Duke for now, but we will be out this afternoon. Hope to see you then. Goodbye.